Greetings and welcome, greetings and welcome. All right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amona. For those who just joined us, welcome to the conversation. And for those who are returning, you don't know already, big up yourself. It's been a long day. I've been through some stuff, but I said, you know what? I abruptly cut people off yesterday. My apologies. Landlord just rolled up on the kids, so I had to go because I had to go deal with some business. You don't know? So I said, you know what? I'm going to come back today and we're going to have a little conversation, kind of off the conversation that we were having yesterday. If you hear cars in the background, you already know what it is. So we're going to have a conversation looking at some history. I like to kind of do that to kind of ground the conversation in a little bit of reality. Sometimes if we were born in the 70s or the 80s, at that time we would have been children. So when a lot of the things, or the 60s or the 50s, certain things that we think we know, we only know partially. We don't know in its fullness because we were children, right? And our world may have reflected much differently than the reality. So I came across this video as I was looking for the Sweet Baby interview. I came across these pimps and prostitute video that I found interesting as it related to the conversation that we were having. Why? Because this would have been someone's grandmother, right? This would have been somebody's great grandmother, because we are all the way in 2022. So when we say our grandparents weren't doing this, our grandfather wasn't doing this, and then you look back at what they were actually doing, you're like, wait a minute. Not everybody's grandmother was marching on Selma. Somebody's grandmother is this lady we're about to see, and it's not really to point fingers. It's kind of to ground the conversation in reality that maybe by the time you come along, your mother or your grandmother doesn't embrace that type of lifestyle. So they're maybe not going to tell you that this is what they were and this is what they used to do. Maybe they've changed their ways. I don't know. But I guess we're going to find out in a minute, eh? So this is from, and I always shout out Hezekiah News because he's the one who'll be bringing the stuff. So we're going to listen to a little bit and break down a little bit about this 1973 to 1976 special report. So, you know, they used to do these type of reports back in the day. And I know it makes us uncomfortable, but hey, you know, it's something that right now, as usual, I'm going over some historical things in my own family, learning only in bits and pieces. Let me see here. Learning only in bits and pieces. So, wait a minute, peoples. All right. So you can see me. Let me make it the full screen. So let me go back over here. Make it a screen that you can see. And I'm outside, so I have to make the screen a little bit brighter here. Yeah. So let me know if you guys can see that. Put it in the chat whether or not you can see it. And I'm gonna no. Hold on. I'm sorry. Let me put you guys on mute. Yeah, my apologies. My children see me outside. They're like, "Ooh, playtime." And I'm like, "No, we not playing right now." Sorry about that. All right, so let's go. Let we go.
Pimp. The dictionary is not certain of the origin of the word, but that's not important. Everyone knows what it means. It used to be that pimps were part of the sleazy underground of every big city, but today they've come out in the open. They get interviewed in the slick magazines. Their customized cars, pimpmobiles, and their foppish clothes make fashion news. Almost all pimps are black. They give themselves names like Hollywood, Silky, Dandy, and Snake. Who are they? How do they get women to prostitute themselves? 60 Minutes looked into the world of the pimp, the man who would be nothing without his woman.
Very interesting. I find that interesting as we have these man and woman conversation. And this news reporter is saying that this is so prominent. This is so to the forefront in the community, in on the landscape, that they can no longer ignore the those who don't want to be ignored. It's not like they're discreet people, in their dressing, and they want everybody to know and identify them as someone who exploits women for profit and gain, right? So you got the fluffy collars, and you got the big cars, and you got the jewelry, and you have the names, all because you want someone to know that this is the game that you're playing. It transformed a little bit into rapping and all of these things, that the same of the flashing of the gold chains and the clothes, all, and the women in the video shaking their behind, is all to indicate that you have this power in this particular community. Very interesting.
Did you care to go on? No?
She is a prostitute in New York. A working girl in the life is how she describes herself.
Where are you going?
She works the streets in Midtown and outside the expensive hotels.
Well, do you want to go get a room?
Yeah, all right.
At the end of her day, she turns all of her
Is it me, or did you just hear her say, "Where are you going?" And then he said, "None of your business." That was crazy.
money over to a pimp. In return, he gives her room and board, some clothes, and a few trinkets. Her name is Cherise. Cherise earns $750 a week, and she turns.
Cherise has on the Mary J goggles. She doesn't want her face to be. This is somebody's daughter, sister, aunt, later mother, grandmother. You know what I mean? Great grandmother. And at the time, $750 at this time she's earning a week, and she is openly willing to share her experience. And for us to say, people were married and everybody was, no, somebody was out here pimping and hoeing. Somebody was, because we still have this type of culture that has revisited us. And if we subscribe to any part of the Torah or any part of the Bible, it says the iniquities will be revisited to the third and fourth generation. So because we still have OnlyFans today, we still have all of these things, that the twerking and all of that's in this generation, it's continuously revisited. And we have an appetite from the masculine who's willing to pay for these things. Then we have the women who are willing to do these things, right? It can't be one or the other. It has to be both, because you don't have a market if you don't have a buyer and a seller.
All of her money over to this man, Richard. He is Cherise's husband. He is also her pimp.
Whoa, pause. So Richard, I have to keep pausing it. Richard is not only Cherise's pimp, he is her husband. Richard is the great granddaddy of what do you bring to the table. You're going to have to, so instead of protecting your woman, securing her, you're using her resource, which is her front. I'm going to say front for the purposes of this conversation. Her genitalia, that is your product that you're looking to market. This is somebody's reality, and this is the 70s, so that's 40 plus years ago, almost 50 years ago. Come on now, somebody talk to me now.
Pimp and a good hoe, they would make it together, because like she's looking for him to have something and he wants her to have something.
The white girl is Donna, another prostitute. In 5 years, she has had 5 pimps. She now operates without one.
I'm looking for a love affair. No, I don't.
Oh, looking for a love affair. You want to be loved.
Right.
So what everybody wants
And a pimp isn't gonna go like that. As soon as another younger, cuter girl comes along that can make more money, I'm going out the door, and I couldn't stand it.
So Donna went independent. Donna had 5 pimps. And Donna was like, on the 6th, she's going to manage her own affairs. This also is someone's grandmother that you just walk past in the supermarket, on the bus, on the train, who may have turned her life around or may not have. We assume that with age comes wisdom, not always, right? And this is just a realistic look into people are people. It doesn't matter what time period they are doing this. This is the what do they call it? The oldest business of prostitution. This is nothing new, right?
I don't want no good pimp. I want a good man.
No one knows how many working pimps there are in the United States. It is known that many pimps, though they like to describe themselves as gentlemen of leisure, in fact do work at pushing and dealing in drugs. But the crime of pimping is next to impossible to prosecute. Police do harass prostitutes, but almost in a casual way. More and more, society regards prostitution and pimping as victimless crimes. And so much has the pimp become a visible man that they're prepared to talk openly on television. This is Hollywood, with two of
That means no shame, no remorse, no consideration. Their children watching. This is a news report. So the child who was born in 1968 and is 6 years old or 8 years old as this comes on across the television, because it's a news report, or the 5-year-old or the 10-year-old or the person who's coming of age as a teenager, they're sitting here and watching this and saying, hey, this may be a viable way to make money. The pimp, and this may be a viable way in which to interface. I told you that when we did the Kevin Samuels, when I looked over his stories that he was telling before he became who he is, right? His conversation is that his father was a Rolling Stone and that there were pimpish type of player type of characters in his family tree. And so what we're seeing manifested and spewed across the whole of the internet is coming from in this era, where this is the thought of how you treat the woman, what you can extract from the woman as a man, and how you can sell your body for the man to desire you as a woman. This corruption is coming from a very long time ago.
his girls, Paula and Sherry.
I'm black. I was born in the ghetto. You understand? I come up wanting things out of life, you know, and I found a way to get things that I want. And I wasn't born with a gold spoon in my mouth. And I had none of that old cash. I felt as if I want things out of life, and there's only one way to get them. That's cash, money.
So he starts off by letting us know his economic status. That's what I was talking about yesterday. He's born in the ghetto. He does not have access to certain things. He does not have trust funds, and he does not have inheritance. Therefore, the only thing that he does have, and right now I'm interjecting, is access to the woman, which if someone else prescribes value in her, that's the only value that she has. How much that she can allow him to achieve the American dream. This is somebody's grandfather, somebody's brother, somebody's father, somebody's uncle, somebody's neighbor who sat them down and told, hey son, let me tell you how it go, and taught them how to manipulate and exploit and commodify the woman's genitalia for your own benefit. They're not talking about having children and building families and establishing yourself. They're talking about, how do I make market or merchandise of you? It's deep. This is, again, 73 to 76.
And that's found a way I can get it, and that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get it. I'm going to get it.
Now, you may have heard that pimps beat the girls, they do this to the girls do that, they suffer. We don't go through those changes. We're out there, we're doing what we're doing. And he's accepting what we're doing, and he's doing what he's doing. So that's what y'all call pimps and whores.
So what are your thoughts on what she just said? Right? It's like, you've heard that, you know what I mean? That this is happening, but that's not what's happening. And the reality is, it is in many spaces what was happening, but to try to sanitize it, to not make it look like you're into something that is questionable, right off the bat, she goes to kind of dispel the reality of what many people were experiencing.
But I'm just telling you that we're not, the way you think we are.
Listen, we human.
Why do you go out and work for him?
Because I love her.
Without a second thought. This one over here laughing, right? I forgot what her name is. Look at Richard's face. Richard like, yeah, ask the wrong question, brother, right? And then over here, Bangs, she's like, because she love him. So many women will do things that are against their own better judgment. Hold on, let me pull this door up. I feel like I'm yelling. that are against their own better judgment, that is a bit against your moral fiber and your moral code for a man. I was watching something the other day because you know how I get sucked into these documentaries yesterday, and it was talking about the South Bronx and New York City in the 70s and the drugs and the heroin. It was Geraldo Rivera, and and now I just forgot why I brought that up. Oh, they found a lady and two of her children, this European woman, two of her children were addicted to substances, one to heroin and one to methadone or something like that. And they asked her, well, how did you get started using? She said it was a man that she was with and he offered her some drugs, and then after that she was addicted. So some of these women went into and continue to go into human trafficking and prostitution and things of that nature, because the man who's supposed to protect and provide is telling you or encouraging you to go in this way. Very, 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 very interesting.
That's why. Can you understand that?
I think so.
All right, then that's your answer.
What does he do for you?
He gives me himself.
Oh, why do you work for him?
Why do I work for him? Because he needs me.
This is why I go out and work.
Pause. So the first one jumped out the window like, yo, he loved me. And the other one laughed like, really, sis? I'll rewind it. She's like, really, sis, he love you? So when the other one responds and says, because he needs me, remember, he just led with, I'm poor, nothing not going for me, my born in the ghetto. And so poor me, right? And people should feel sorry for me, even though the woman is also poor, born in the ghetto, but now she needs to go to another level to meet his need, even in their both lowered estate. Just think about that for a minute. You have some women saying, stop trying to rescue him. To a certain degree in her mind, she feels that it's her responsibility, not for him to rescue her or him to meet her needs as the woman, but for her, because he needs me, right? While he, sits there looking rather interested in the face.
Because he does need us. You know, it's as simple as that. I don't think there's anything wrong with giving someone you love some money the best way you can, you know? I mean, other women do it in other ways. This is how I do mine.
What's a pimp's life like? How did you get started?
That was an emotional appeal. When sometimes we feel conflicted about what it is that we're doing, she makes the false equivalency of going and finding a job to help your household, to selling your body. And because it makes you feel uncomfortable, then you have to appeal to emotion so that the person could connect with, the thing that even you find an issue with. Let me see what's going on over here. What's going on over here? What are you guys' thoughts? What's going on, sweetie? This is a lot to take in. Yeah, it's a lot to take in. That's why I keep stopping, breaking it up a little bit. It's a lot of conversation, but sometimes we got to do it. Because people be jumping on here like, no, that's not what was happening. I'm like, well, where did all the pimps and the hoes come from then? Where did all these people come from? Whose children is on OnlyFans out here? Maybe Little Miss, we love him. Maybe that's her child. We don't know. These things we visit from generation to generation.
This business. You didn't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to be a pimp.
It was more or less a thing of, I guess, me really recognizing things that I could do, and the things that I feel as if I love to do. And I love doing what I do.
This is Silky.
Did Richard say he loves exploiting the bodies of women who think they love him and he loves doing that? That's what he said. That was his words, not mine. This is amazing.
Describes himself as having a PhD in pimping.
Mr. PhD, Father help me. Y'all help me. I'm gonna cut up just a little bit on this video. Y'all just see with me. What's going on, Nyasha? Did he say he had a PhD?
Claims to earn as much as the president, $200,000 a year. He wears a $5,000 watch and a $4,500 ring. Pimps are nothing if they are not conspicuous consumers. The word
same thing with rappers. The same thing happened. I show my ring. Don't forget to show my chain. Don't forget, these are their granddaddies. These are their uncles. These are their neighbors. And they say the first thing you get when you get a little money, hey, you got to run out here and show everybody that you have money. which is also a show that you don't have money, but that's another story.
Pejorative sound. That's a nasty word. Does it bother you?
To whom?
To many people. To myself, for example.
Not to an individual who's dedicated their life to it.
You talk about it almost as though it's a very special calling.
Well, that's what I feel.
Describe a typical day. A typical day in your life. How does it start?
If you seen Mr. on the street, would you think was a pimp? Look at his face, just shy. This is probably how he sucked the women in. He looks shy and reserved, but wait till he start talking. Wait till he starts talking.
I wake up, decide whether to go out or decide whether to go back to sleep. That's typical.
That's all you do all day?
Practically.
Why are so many pimps black men?
Wait, let's pause. Did you hear the question? Why are so many pimps, according to him, black men? Now, the word may be new, but the exploitation of people for your own benefit is not new. And we know that Europeans are very proficient in this space, but this particular forwardness of what it is that you do, the advertising of what it is that you do, I guess in this space and time would have been something that was surprising. Like, you out here advertising that you a pimp, and that you exploit people. But let's make no mistake about it. The practice is not new.
This would be pertaining to the past, but it was really the only opportunities you had if you weren't Jim Brown or, if you couldn't throw a shot put or run around the block faster than somebody else. It was the only opportunity you had. That's the case has changed, fortunately, but that was the only opportunity.
Would you rather be...
Sorry, the only opportunity for economic advancement is the exploitation of your women. Deep. And then you wonder why by this generation, some women are like, okay, I'm done. You have this mentality that you're going to use her till she's used on up. And then when she's done, you're going to move on. Again, Amuna's not making this stuff up.
You're doing something other than what you're doing?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't rather do anything but lay in the bed and count.
Black pimps are a social phenomenon.
And he's speaking to either laziness, deep depression. He would rather just lay in the bed and collect money. This is what he says. He decides whether he's going to go outside or stay inside, but he would rather just lay around. And this is his only way to achieve the American dream. Oh, my goodness. If somebody has another point for this, another way we can look at this, please feel free to share. I'm not even being facetious.
Intrigued at least one team of anthropologists. Richard and Christina Milner studied them in close hand. They wrote a book, Black Players, The Secret World of the Black Pimp.
And now y'all know I'm about to go look for that book. So they studied melanated people like they usually do, like animals, and then went undercover. She became a topless stripper to write this book. They're anthropologists. They wanted to understand the world of the pimp. So I'm gonna have to find out what was going on and what they found in their book.
Nice. Shit. Oh, the lady, yeah, bring him out in here like it, too. Let me show you what it is, folks. It's about time.
For her research, Mrs. Milner got a job as a topless dancer in a San Francisco club, where she was billed as Tiger Red.
Almost every night, I would get the same line from some new dude who walk in and see me up there and say, "Oh, this is a white lady that I want to cop." And he comes.
Wait a minute. How did Mrs. Miller convince Mr. Miller that she should go undercover as a topless dancer? I think she low-key enjoyed that, because what kind of conversation, like, you know what, honey, to really understand the Negroes in this capacity, I think I need to become, some topless dancer. Like, Miss Miller, I got questions for you too. You ain't the only one who want to do some investigating.
Up to me and he'd say, "Hey, Mama, what you doing dancing up there for chump change? What's a fine fox like you doing standing up there when you could be hitched up with me and making plenty bucks?" And, you know, I heard this version and that version of the same line over and over again. And after a while, I learned how to handle it. And I just usually say, I got me a man.
The good pimp is not a violent man. He doesn't get his way by pushing his woman around. He gets his way by understanding the social forces around him, by understanding the nature of woman, and by being able to control his own behavior, such as his own sexual behavior, for example, doling out sexual favors in return for the woman's money or good behavior. So the pimp, as in oppressed peoples throughout the world, is a trickster hero who gains his ends by wit and guile.
And what does he get? The symbols of power. Color TV, magnificent clothing, car, many women. These are symbols of power and manhood to the young black boy growing up in the ghetto.
And his style.
Very, very interesting. Did he say the good pimp? So back to what lady in the bar was saying, because y'all know I'm bad with names, that he doesn't hit her. So they're saying, according to their research, the good pimp doesn't hit the, and I'm using quotation marks, the good pimp. It's like the good blimp. The good pimp doesn't hit. He's able to finesse her, is what we will call it in today's space and time, to finesse her, to either gaslight her or mentally manipulate her into doing what it is that he wants, and getting her to think that what she's doing is a good thing.
His flash, his color, his manipulation of the symbols of power is part of the gaining of manhood by American black men.
The pimp, in many ways, has become the thoroughly modern man, not just to the young in the ghetto, but to white society as well. The way he makes his money doesn't seem to be of concern to magazine editors. His frills and feathers have become news. Decadence is its own reward. Take your stock model $10,000 Lincoln Continental and trim it with glove leather. In his own world, the flashiest taste is the best taste. He is a fop who wears his profession on his sleeve, whose very foppishness shows his defiance of the law and society. And the fact that the fashions have spilled over into society at large indicates how much society really cares.
Let me see what everybody's saying. Again, like I said, this translated over into the music industry, you know. Let's see here what's going on here. I don't know why I can't see this part right here. Queen T says, I think the young man on the show said it well. Although it's not a good profession, it gives them a sense of control over somebody. Yeah, over someone else's body. It does. It gives them a sense of agency. But I don't know what it speaks more to. There's so many layers to this conversation. I guess we can unpack it after we finish, but it speaks to so many things. John says pimps are an extremely small, non-endorsed. No, I'm talking about then, John. I'm not talking about now. It was endorsed then because, as we were talking yesterday about the blaxploitation era, at that time it was endorsed not by enough of society to make the blaxploitation movies have the effect that they did. You had to have a viewership for those movies in order for Hollywood to enter the arena and begin producing things like Shaft and things of that nature. So in this space and time, for them to make it on the news, for them to have a special, oh yeah, there were segments of society that it wasn't just a small, segment of society. It had to be substantial to even get this type of coverage.
This is his and hers outfit, which is polyester print, which is fabulous, one of the latest styles with the big cuffs. What I think they'll be wearing, until next generation. And this is also the hers.
Did you hear what he said? So he prophesied. He's out of the mouth of this man that he thinks it's going to be for another generation. This flashiness, they're going to be wearing it for time to come. They were setting the tone for those who came later, for the expectations of the girls, that the guys, sometimes people say, you don't want a normal girl. This is what we hear today. I mean, you don't want a normal man, an average man, but yet still this tone was set that he needs to have a flashy car and he needs to have flashy clothes and he needs to have bankrolls. This is what the tone was set then. But in today's space and time, you're not willing to deal with an average man with an average income. It's like there's too many stuff going on at the same time, right? It gets confusing after a while.
To go along with the hairs, it's kind of trimmed in the mink. It's your style. And by the way, some of these styles, come from the customers themselves. They do their thing, and we make it up. And this is a suede.
Wait, hold on,
The
Mr.
smaller
Taylor.
towns are a lucrative scene for small town pimps, known in pimpdom as popcorn pimps.
Popcorn pimps, y'all better take notes. Y'all learn something new. A small town pimp is a popcorn pimp. I am done. Father help me.
This man, Mike, works out of New Haven, Connecticut, with a stable of 2 girls, Slim and Pat, one black, one white. Even a small operator like Mike says he takes in $2,000 a week, but he is modest about his success.
I don't have no big El Cavalier, I don't have no big flashy diamond ring, and I don't keep no $2,000 or $3,000 bankroll in my pocket, And I'm not flashy. I'm just myself.
Why do you have a pimp?
Now, Mike, that's his name. He over here pimping out European and the melanated girl pulling down $2,000 a week off of their quote unquote labor. This is crazy. People today still ain't making $2,000 a week. Where are they now? I would love for them to do a where are they now and how did they fare? And where is Mike? Did they get any retirement? Did they get any severance packages? You know what I mean? Did they get any health care after they worked for the block for Mike?
Why didn't you just start working? You surely have more money if you did.
Well, Mike is as much as my man as he's my pimp. So, if I was to go out and get a job, I'd be working for us. So instead of having a regular job, I'm out there working in the streets for us.
And he's not really putting us out there. If we didn't want to go out there, we wouldn't have gone out there. If we didn't want to
She
work.
said she's the second woman who says she's not just his pimp, she's his man. And he's her man. And she's into poly, clearly, because there goes another woman. And she's justifying that this is a viable occupation, a job. The cognitive dissonance, the separation between why you're doing it and what you're actually doing. We're watching when we see people struggling in this way where we could clearly see it, but they can't see it, is because oftentimes once you're involved, it's difficult to condemn yourself. Like, yo, you know what I'm doing is wrong, but I'm gonna do it anyway. We have to justify it for the most part to ourselves to make sense of why we're doing what we're doing.
Or anything like that, we wouldn't have done.
Prostitutes in New Haven work in one square block downtown. Mike parks nearby. And after every few clients, the girls turn over their money. Sometimes he gets a short count.
Hey, y'all. How many tricks you trying tonight?
Half of them are already $10, most of them.
$10 what?
$10 tricks.
No, you didn't turn a $10 trick.
I know I did not turn the $26 trick.
You turned one trick? No. Come on, Pat. You're old now.
I love it. I swear to God.
So what I'm sorry, I know this is Brethren, $10 tricks. And she's like, nah, she did 26. Just one. And he's fighting with her for where is the money. But if he's pulling down $2,000 a week on $10 per, how many people did you lay with? What is your body count? And it's funny that in today's space and time, I did a video on people running around talking about what is your body count, but yet still you have a man promoting that this woman catch bodies so he can be a popcorn shrimp in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm sorry, popcorn shrimp, popcorn pimp, one of the two. I don't know.
Nah, something wrong.
I know something.
Yeah, something's wrong, all right.
No, it ain't that.
I don't make sure, Mom. Yes, you want to search me, Mike? Huh? Huh? Maybe I can
No, I'm serious, man. I'm serious.
I'm serious too, right?
The money's short.
Huh?
The money's short.
Huh?
I said the money's short.
I told you I had some change, and you told me you didn't want it.
That wouldn't even make up the difference. That wouldn't make up the difference. Straighten out the money when you come back next time, man. You got to get it out of lamppost. You better straighten it out.
Why don't you get it out the lamppost, Mike? Why don't you get it out the lamppost? If she could have got it out the lamppost, wouldn't she? If you could, wouldn't you? So, I'm sorry. I have to go back to the Bible where it says, by the sweat of your brow, you should eat bread. And that conversation was to the man, right? And the woman would bear pain in childbirth. By the sweat of his brow, he would eat bread. And he is exploiting the woman so that he could eat bread and haggling that the money is short and that she should create, blood out of stone while he rides around in his popcorn mobile. I'm going to come to see what you guys are saying, but I have to stop it every now and then as we're getting. So for those who are like, well, she just play it. Nah, bro, I can't. You know what I mean? It's YouTube. They're going to be like, oh.
What is a pimp? What is a hoe? I don't know. Could you give me the definition?
Oh, here goes Shorty again. Bangs is back. Now Bangs is going to pretend that she don't know what a pimp or a hoe is. Does anybody know Bangs? Is Bangs somebody's grandmother, granny, auntie, great aunt? Anybody tell me if they know who Bangs is? Because now Bangs is about to play games.
I don't classify. I classify myself as a young woman, that wants to help my man. That's all.
That's the dissonance. She cannot sit with knowing that she's prostituting herself, so she has to redefine it. This is what people do, even in today's space and time. They don't want to agree with how that label makes you feel, so you have to redefine it to mean something else.
No pimps and hoes. That's calling each other names. That's what I think. Because they jealous. Because they can't do it. That's all. They do it in another way. Can you dig that? How? You pay your wife money, don't you? What you call that? Huh? She pays you. I'm obvious both of y'all might work or whatever. So what do you call each other doing to each other? Are y'all pimps?
The difference is you're exploiting yourself to hundreds of Joes or Johns or whomever there's no relationship there. It's not the same thing. That's a false equivalency, ma'am. Let me come over here and see what you guys are saying. Hold on one second. Okay. Sweetie, I wanted to think that this is some wild propaganda. This news report was meant to give an accurate report of American black men as a majority. Your points are so salient, though. I don't know if it's a majority, but like I'm saying, if this is in 73, 76, the reason I came to this video, Bangs, yeah, there's definitely pain in her voice, GB. I agree. There's pain in her voice. She almost looks like she wants to cry. The reason I came to this video is the conversation we had yesterday. Now, when I was talking about Melvin Van Peebles being one of the godfathers of the independent film, this wasn't a European man bringing a microphone in your face and saying, ooh, let me see about pimps. They brought this imagery to the culture. It was through independent films like Sweet Baby Back and the others that were created that made Hollywood say, hey, I can make a low budget film and gross a lot of money. We could go over the history of that. So it was melanated people bringing that to the forefront. So when the Europeans now are taking note, if they didn't have, like I said before, if you don't have somebody who's willing to play the role, then you wouldn't have a story. But they're going to dress up in blackface and play the role. So you had people who were in this lifestyle willing to tell their story. This is why, in order to propagate something, like you propagate seed, you actually have to have a seed. The word propaganda comes from the word propagate. Right? So there has to be some kernel there of something that you're going to propagate in the earth. You're going to continue to repeat. You're going to bring to the forefront. So this is part of us being honest. Like this was a part. I was telling my mother today about the Geraldo Rivera drug video I saw from the 70s. And they first came to America in the 70s, the early 70s. And as soon as I was talking, she was like, yep, that's exactly how it was. So people who were there, who came, it was filled, many of places like Harlem and 42nd Street and certain places in Brooklyn were filled with drugs. They were filled with prostitution. This is truth. The South Bronx. This is not somebody making up some type of propaganda. They were filled with abandoned buildings, poverty, and all type of things, because the reality is many people moved from the South into these crowded cities, and there wasn't any necessarily opportunity for them to do what it is they needed to do. And now they went into finding ways, such as selling drugs, such as becoming pimps. So I'm not saying that this is not connected to a whole narrative. I'm just looking at this particular part of the narrative to say, when we talk about that's not how it used to be, well, this is somebody, granny, who was willing to justify being prostituted by her man because of economic necessity, right? It is deep. Let's continue to play this, eh?
If they give the impression of a content family unit, we should point out that most relationships are not very lasting. The girls move from pimp to pimp, and the pimps are forever scouting for new girls. It's almost as though they come together for a brief moment of security, much like the square, straight world they're so contemptuous of.
Do you think that the
Wait, pause. Did they go back to the old lady in the strip? Wait, hold on. Let me see it. So you know what? To show that there's validity and it's not just propaganda, you have Iceberg Slim. He wrote a book back in that time, and he also did a video, and I think I shared it on here before. And he did a video talking as an admonition about this lifestyle. He lived this lifestyle. This is what he did, and he later on comes back, I think after he comes from jail, to tell the young youth them who was looking up to him, like, this is not what you want to be. This is not what you want to aspire to. So I don't think it's purely propaganda. This was part of society for many people, right? And again, in different times, it manifests itself as different things. But at this space and time, it was just more. You didn't have to go to the bathroom or the back house or the red light district. At this time, it's in your face. And I think that's what made it different from all of the other errors that you see this type of activity in. In this space, they came with calling cards. They wanted you to know who they were and what they were doing.
combat zone has been a successful experiment?
Yes, I think it's been an unqualified success. I've come to get throngs of people down here, especially on weekends.
Yo, what is good with the naked lady in the back, fam? Yo, like, who set this shot up? Like, yeah, what I want you to do is just dance, but not really, in the back while we're having this very serious interview. I'm sorry, that's funny. Okay.
By and large, the throngs are orderly. Boston Police Department, if asked, will tell you that the crime rate in the combat zone is one of the lowest in the cities, with the exception of auto theft.
But continue this. What if the efforts to shut this zone down continue? Can you go on?
You have to reach a point where you're under break even and you're losing money. And at that point, as with many other businesses, it would just die.
Wait a minute, what y'all talking
There's
about
been a
now?
problem.
Okay, wait, hold on, brother. Let me just get okay,
It's New York. We went to the hotel where a lot of pimping hoes go.
Okay, let's get her story real quick. This is a European woman.
And then I met him at a bar here. And he told me if I wanted to be with him, I had to hook, work the streets.
If you wanted to be with him, you had to hook. If you wanted to be with him, you had to debase yourself. If you wanted to be with him, you got to go on OnlyFans. I mean, that's not love, though. But many women have suggested how he loves me, because if he didn't, no, that's not love. That's not love, dear. That's not love.
I did on my 16th birthday. Well, I was going on my 17th birthday, actually. I started working. Nice birthday. For money, Well, we went to New York and we went to a hotel where a lot of pimping hoes go. And he went out and found out where the hookers work and put me on 8th Avenue and said, here, have a nice night. It's really a trip. Just being put on 8th Avenue like that, Ugh. And I was really scared, but I met a girl from Minnesota that helped me. She showed me where the hotels were, and what to ask the guys for. And then I found out there was a lot of women from Minnesota.
So also like to say some, even what we experience as Karens today may have, we don't know what's in the past. Like she won't even show her face, right? By now she's a grandmother or great grandmother, and they had some experiences, but like we were saying yesterday, the half has never been told. Yeah. And then people show up in this space and time and revise history like it never happened. And then they revisit their children and they pretend like, oh, I don't even know what is happening. Really not. Hold on. Let me see what you guys are saying. And then I'll open up the mic. Let me see what's going on here. Y'all be keeping it live in the comment section. I appreciate y'all in the comment section. Y'all be getting down in the comment section. So let me
Pimp makes you believe that you don't have nothing else but him, you know.
strip or on the block, but they're going to get in your head so that you can give them that thing which they value and then leave you, discard you, call you names. You understand what I'm saying? Pimp sounds very ambiguous. Like the guy said, what is the definition? But a hoe, that carries some connotation. A prostitute, that carries some connotation. But the pimp, it can mean a well-dressed guy in a Cadillac. So a lot of the negativity, a lot of the onus, a lot of the heaviness and the weight, it rests on the woman. And that's the same thing onto this very day. It's just packaged in a different way.
There's some money there. There's some money to be made. There's some money there. Millionaires in Denver, baby. Give me a feel with millionaires. I'm talking about some money there, baby. It's a big city. It's larger than the city is. More people than Denver is here. More to do in Denver is here. You know what I mean? In other words, it's more things that live in the city. You know what I mean?
Okay, it sounds like it's giving feedback. That's the spew. There's some money there. You're gonna get some money, girl. That's some money, girl. Get on the block, nah. Sorry. All right, let me see what everybody's saying. Let me drop the link in the box. We're not gonna keep it too long today. I'm gonna keep it gully because it's a little bit late in the day. It's a little bit late in the day for me, and I had a bit of a long day. So, let me see what's going on. I wonder what type of family he came from. Yep, these are all questions. Nasha says she's speechless. At first, when I watched it, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, "What?" What's the overall message you're trying to convey? Like I said, it was a continuation, John, from yesterday's conversation as it relates to the Color Purple movie or the misrepresentation of melanated people in the media and the thought process that only one segment of society, either the European or the Black woman, is benefited from showing this image that disparages Black men. But in reality, when Black men, many, not all, or dare I say some, have the opportunity to represent or misrepresent themselves, they take it to do so. And that's the point of me bringing this up, is that, as I spoke about yesterday, Melvin Bad Peebles, he had one of the most powerful opportunities with a video camera in his hand to produce cinema. And what he produced ushered men and women and the larger society into an era of pimp and exploitation movies. That's why they named it Blaxploitation. So my point, because y'all know I like to make points, but yesterday I had to go. So today I wanted to come back and show that how we are misremembering history doesn't necessarily benefit us in the long run of making this conversation move forward. Like, if we're not going to be honest, then we're just going to keep looping every time we come online. And that's a waste of time in my estimation. Queen T, I think she's Black. The woman in New Haven, I think they said one was white, one was Black. Even though she kind of looked, she could have possibly been mixed. But, you know, yeah, I know it's painful to watch. I should have put a little trigger warning on here. But Hollywood started making those Blaxploitation movies to make money, as white folks weren't watching movies. I mean, I watched the history of the Blaxploitation. I don't know if I brought it here, but no, the Blaxploitation started to a certain degree with Melvin Van Peebles. We could look that up. That's facts. He's the one who came with that first movie that appealed to the appetites of many melanated people, because before then it was on some Leave It to Beaver type conversation, and they didn't see, other than maids and butlers, they didn't see a representation of themselves in the media, whether outside of the stereotype. And so when he took the camera and he began to do it, this is what whet the appetite for movies such as that. So Hollywood only came on mid-70s. Hollywood wasn't the first to put this type of media out there. Again, John is an excellent representation, and thank you for always being willing to share. But it's an excellent representation of kind of thwarting the conversation, kind of derailing the conversation, so that we don't deal with the uncomfortable truths. Like Nasha is saying, yo, this is uncomfortable. We're being honest, like, yo, this is uncomfortable. That doesn't mean it's not true. Just because something makes us feel a kind of way doesn't mean it's not true. And if we keep looking away every time we feel uncomfortable and don't move through the information, we cannot get to the other side. You understand what I'm saying? And maybe, LF asked me in the comment section, Muna, how you do it. Maybe that's just my portion. I know it's hard to look at. I know it's hard to move through the information, but the only way to get to the other side is to go through it, to acknowledge that this doesn't feel good to look at. Yeah, it makes us feel good that, our foreparents weren't really like this, and all of them really were just upstanding citizens of society. That's not true, though. It's not true. You had good elements and you had bad elements. You had strong elements and you had weak elements. And unfortunately, the weaker elements and the bad apples were the ones who were put to the forefront. And believe it or not, they did have an effect on how we saw ourselves and how society saw us. That's just facts. T. Dawn, welcome to the conversation.
Hi, Amuna. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's going on?
I just wanted to bring up the point about propaganda, and I wanted to bring up, and I don't want to feel like I'm going left here, but I'm thinking about the Daughters of the Confederacy right now.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I'm bringing it up is because there was a concerted effort to bring forth a certain narrative about, and this is what I want to start saying, the Black population. Can you hear me? Am I going out?
Yeah, you went out and then you came back in, so go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I agree with you that we can't have this idea that everyone was seeking after the best moral high ground for their lives. That's not facts. Right. It's not reality.
Right.
But to me, the propaganda I feel like it's propaganda because of how it is disseminated to the public in a supposedly authority of media saying that this is an accurate representation of quote unquote Black American men. I'm just gonna stop my point, but
no. So let's go to that point. You talking about when the broadcaster first opened up the conversation?
Yes, I was completely thrown off.
Right. And of course, if the person, I would agree, the person who is presenting it, they have their objective. They have their agenda, right? Just like the Monahan report, there was an agenda reporting of the condition of Black people, many families on welfare in the 60s. There was an agenda. But my point is, if we totally discount it as propaganda, then it affords us the opportunity not to acknowledge that, you know what, there may be some truth to this. You understand what I'm saying? Because I think that's not what I'm getting from you. That's kind of what I'm getting from John. That if I call it propaganda, then I don't have to deal with, oh no, what happened to T Dawn? I don't have to deal with the reality of what is going on or what went on.
Amuna, thank you so much for this time and space. I wanted to just share my aversion to how the information was presented. Right, and I will just say that I do agree that there was this element there. I would be delusional to say that it was not. So thank you so much for presenting this and bringing it out. And I'm going to log off, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming through and letting your voice be heard. For those who just joined us, welcome to the conversation. Let me see. Let me see how long I've been going. 54. Let me see what y'all saying in the comment section because John always be getting it lit. LF is in the spot. Uh, what I think I missed the conversation of. Queen T says she lives in New Orleans. Where do you think the French Quarter comes from? And it was manifested a different way in New Orleans in the 1800s, early 1900s. Like she says, in these type of space where they would call it left hand marriages, it wouldn't necessarily be the woman or the mulatto woman jumping from man to man. It would be the European woman making sure that his, for lack of better word, side chick was secured so that when he left his family, he would go. So to the point of the lady who's saying, don't you guys do it in another way? There are people who have throughout history done it in other ways. But the way it was being done in this time was so much so that there was no more shame attached. There wasn't any more, we need to hide what we're doing that's attached. We're making it to where it looks like it's something that is desirable. And I must say they were equal opportunity because they didn't discriminate. It looks like they were open to uh, exploiting women of many nationalities. Let me just say that. John is saying we didn't endorse the drugs in large number. We're not on drugs right now, so that's okay right there. I love his. I'm sorry, John. You could come on up. John says I'm using conjecture. Let me go to Iceberg Slim. Since it's conjecture, again, who knows the story or the life of Iceberg Slim? This is people who are saying it's not. I could see if the European was chopping it up with the European, but this is the people talking for themselves. This is why I'm not understanding. Maybe we can make the argument that they were coached, but even in the case of Malcolm X, he had a similar not necessarily pimping, but lifestyles when he was running around with European women and doing heists and things of that nature. It was in the culture. That was early 1900s Harlem Renaissance. So I'm trying to figure out what part are we pushing back on. GB says not propaganda, not some truth. This is the truth. Black people lack self-reflection and accountability. Uh-oh. 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 That's an interesting statement there. I think there's a level of accountability that, again, if we're seeing it, oh wait, I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but just to show you a little bit of this, you can look up the book. Hold on, there's a lot of music in the beginning. I think somebody popped in. Wait. I think I showed this before. This was the story of Iceberg Slim and the women going out, but I kind of want to show him in the bar. So here we go. Boom, shakalaka. Okay, let me share my screen. Tyra, I see you, but it says your device is not connected. Maybe if you go out and come back in, then we'll be able to hear you. It says this device not connected for some reason. Okay, this is 1971. So this article is taking place before the one we just watched, okay? The other one was from 73 to 76, and this one is 1971. Y'all know I like to do homework. I just haven't had the time.
To be persuaded, you see. Then the pimp is going to have to find some other way to make a living, like chill tapping, or let him play the calm on the white folks downtown, you know. If prostitution were legalized, that the top echelon pimps would do well, because they'd have the experience and expertise necessary to organize and to open houses. What it would do also, it would mean that recruitment would be much easier for pimps.
Pause. So you can look this man up. He wrote a book on his experience, and he's theorizing. This is a business meeting now. He's theorizing that the legalization, like the legalization of ganja, would open up channels because it would be above board, and you can have whorehouses and you can have a different process of processing women. And let's make no mistake about it. On the other side of town, you have a Hugh Hefner type character who's doing the same things, but in a different way, because we live in a society, true as it is, that when one person or subset of people are doing it, it is justified because you just call it a different name. But when another set is doing it, you demonize it. And so in a time that you had such a character as Hugh Hefner in the Playboy Mansion, this is what Robert Beck is theorizing, but it's actually happening in another space where it's not as, doesn't have such a negative connotation to it.
It would mean that the hazards, now when a pimp turns out a girl, he's got to turn out in the street, more or less. With the houses, you see, open and legal. It would mean that a girl wouldn't have to be put through the kind of comprehensive training that one must give a street girl. It would mean that pimps could just take a girl out of hypothetically, out of a restaurant today and this evening, and tomorrow she'd be working in the house. Because all one need to do is know how to lie down and open one's legs. You see.
Wow.
It's not a bit like it is in the street.
Wow. I see that. Wow. I'm going to salute on that one. Tara, you come to the conversation. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. You know I'm Queen T.
Oh,
but my
T, yeah, you
formal
switched up on me.
I just wanted to make a comment. I just think, and I'm just going to say this and I'm gone. I don't do all that talking, but the thing is, it's so many layers to this. And I guess I keep saying that because it's not just one thing. It was a lot of exploitation during the enslavement time. It's a lot of emotional breakdown. It's a lot of family history. It's just a lot of stuff. And it's no one cure to it. Just like I think there's no one solution to it. But like you said, we have to realize that it did exist and it still does exist on different levels, but it still exists. And we just have to face it. We have to face it no matter what the reasoning was. And yes, there is some exploitation from others. Absolutely. So it's all of that. And, I'm from New Orleans, so it's a gumbo pot. It's a mixture of a whole lot of stuff. And we just got to weed through it all. Like we got to take the crabs out, the shrimp out, the sausage out, and because it's all in the gumbo that's in our culture, in our society.
I agree with you. And sometimes when it's so much, it's overwhelming. And so then we can just discount. But my point, and like John asked me, well, what's my point? Usually we say that when we're faced with something that we don't want to deal with. So we'd be like, well, what's your point? You know what I mean? To try to dismiss or deflect. My thing is, if somebody has high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, and they have all of these outliers, they go to the doctor. First, they're going to start saying, okay, what can we get under control? Yeah.
Right.
So if we say it has so many layers, cool. Now the next question is, this is one of the layers. Why pretend if this happens to be diabetes? Boom, let's call it what it is. Let's not say, but what about that high blood pressure? Nah, bro, we dealing with the diabetes right now.
Right. Absolutely.
Stop drinking the alcohol.
And some of the stuff is not what we want to hear. We don't want to hear that our ancestors did some of those things, but it's the truth. And here's the thing: that don't mean they stayed in that time factor. They could have done that as a young person or whatever, and then realized, I don't want this for my life, and became somebody upstanding and went to colleges. I mean, we don't know their whole future after this, so it's not like they stayed in that. There's a lot of things we've done that, hey, I could think I was probably a coon at one time. I've been in corporate America and all kind of stuff until I came to that realization. I was in religion deep until I started studying. So I don't think we should look at everything as bad and good. I think we need to look at it. It was part of us. It was part of our culture. And it's not like those people probably stayed in that. They could have grown and became, I guess, better people, if you want to use those words. So
I agree with you. That this was just one point in time, and it didn't. They could
yeah,
have evolved, or they could have devolved. You understand what
yeah,
I'm saying? They could have went on,
yeah,
but if we deny that it was actually a reality, and then
correct.
we negate that it's actually happening in today's space and time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
OnlyFans is a replication of pimps and hoes. If you don't have
absolutely.
somebody who's
Online.
willing to pay for, exactly, all it is virtual. And
But
there's
guess
still,
what?
go
And
ahead.
then here's another thing. We're not the only ones. Hello, we just got the Playboy Ranch. I mean, that
Exactly.
whole thing. But
Exactly.
the difference is, I will point this out. The difference is theirs is highlighted as, oh, that was the Playboy Mansion and it was fun and people used to come there and whatever. Whereas ours is like dark and gloomy all the time. I
Correct.
will say that.
And that's what I was pointing out to, that it's about definitions. That's what Bangs, I'm gonna call her Bangs because I don't remember her name. My apologies. But that's what she was saying in the bar. Like, what makes the difference? Even though I said she was playing with definitions, the reality
Right.
is popular culture does play with definitions. If
Oh,
you're
yeah.
their
Yeah.
pharmacy, you're a drug dealer. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
They're exotic dancing,
Right.
you a stripper. You know what I'm saying? They are
That's correct.
what do you call it? Not a call girl. What do you call the dates that they you know what I'm talking about, the dates when they want to go out on dates and it's more high end. I
Oh,
forgot the
an escort.
right. They're an escort,
Yeah,
and you just a hoe. You see what I'm saying? So yes, people definitely
exactly.
play with these definitions.
Exactly.
But
That I do agree with. Yeah.
it's
So
the
I'm
same
gonna
thing.
get off. I know other people want to get on, but I just want to say, hey, and I have to give the Yummy Cottage, I'm sorry to change subject,
Now
a
go ahead.
shout out. Girl, I gotta order my green eggs. I love it.
Thank you
And
so
so
much.
I just love everything. My son loves the pancake and the syrup. Y'all, please get some. It is so good.
Thank you.
So
I'm
I
about
just
to
want
make
to
some
talk that
syrup
up.
this week too. So thank you
Oh
so
my
much.
God, I love it. It's so good. I'm eating a cranberry right now. So it's so good. So
Thank you.
anyway, I'm gone. Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, Queen T. Thank you for those who just joined us. We were having a discussion about and if you have anything to say, feel free to click the link, because I see a lot of people got some stuff to say in the audience. You know what I mean? Click the link. But the conversation essentially was an extension of yesterday. Again, my objective is not just to show all of the negative parts of a culture or to disparage people. It's for us to get a historical lesson collectively that we can actually begin to move from, because I find that when we come in this space, people are highly biased. They only look at information that's going to confirm their objective. Anything that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, you look away from. You deflect. We, the people, we deflect from reality so that we can feel comfortable in where we are. So something such as this, John said, why are you showing it? Because we had the conversation yesterday. If we're going to say color purple is propaganda and that wasn't present, but then we also see pimps and hoes willing to talk about being pimps and hoes, then we can't say that color purple is totally propaganda. What was happening in that space and time for someone to, even if it's fictional, sit down and create such a story? Like, what has to be in the mind of a person to say, you know what kind of story I'm gonna make? That's not a normal thing to do. Let's see what's going on here. And I see Nasha on the mic. I'm gonna open up. Hold on one second. Sorry. Okay. John says that conjecture simply because you cannot name. The conversation wasn't about naming states, John. See, I'm not, we can't play move the goalpost with Amuna. I'm not playing move the goalpost today. That wasn't the point. I think the point that I set out to make, I made. We collectively took a look at, I was looking for the interview, and I'll continue to look for that interview with Melvin Van Peebles. But my point was that this misrepresentation of the image of the black man and woman did not sit squarely on the shoulders of women who came and wrote a book. That's my point, right? That's not how it happened. And if we're going to be honest from there, then we can move forward in the conversation. That's all I'm saying. So I think my point has been made. Let's see who. Uh, Sadika says, I want a roundtable discussion of the elders and teachers of the Hebrew community. I mean, let us know what you think they're going to bring to the conversation. Are we going to talk about the conversation or the topic at hand? Or Phil, share a little bit more about that.
Yes, greetings.
Greetings. Welcome to the conversation.
Welcome. I have a very good friend of mine. Her name is Ellie Carter, and she was the victim of huge now in Playboy Mansion. And her story, just left me speechless about what they were doing. Like some Hollywood stars have sick fetishes, about being in a room, um, inflicting pain on you. This is what the customer likes. So I think that, and she also was a sex trafficking victim. So I think that those are things, and the black woman is the number one victim in it. I think we make 30% of it are black women who actually been sex trafficked around the world. Even OnlyFans is a lot in, those are a lot of them are black women. So I think that it's a topic that I think we should be talking about. Why do black women let other people exploit them? Even this um, even this thing of Sarah wife syndrome. I have this feeling like black women tend to be, you know, let themselves be used easily by other people. Is it their men or other men or the big society? It's a lot of black women in those, in those positions. I think that should be a topic. And how can we teach our girls to not fall into this rabbit hole of this trafficker, pimps and traffickers?
I think you bring up an excellent point. It's something that definitely we could talk about as we're talking about how this energy and this appetite has morphed into this space, and it is sex trafficking. It is the continuation of the exploitation that used to take place in real life, like as they were saying. Now it's in the virtual realm. You know what I mean? So it's definitely something to talk about. That's a conversation we could continue to have. So thank you for bringing that up. I see Sankara says all propaganda. You willing to share your thoughts? Now you're gonna let me go look up the word propaganda. Because sometimes, like I said earlier, sometimes if we say it's propaganda, then we don't have to deal with whether or not it's true. The conversation with Tommy Sotomayor that I came across, and this woman that he pays, part of the reason why it erupts is because he is on OnlyFans exploiting himself and women who looks like him. So it can't be propaganda to the degree if it is still happening. Not 5 years ago, like last week, right? Part of the contention is that the man wants to pay this woman a sum of money so that she can prostitute herself on camera and so that he can display it to OnlyFans. That's not whether we argued about Melvin Van Peebles in the movie theater in 1970. That's last week, and they're currently on the computer arguing about why he was verbally accosting her. You see what I'm saying? So I think to ignore it is to do it a great disservice, because you have children, you have young adults coming behind on the internet, watching all of these things and thinking, it's viable. The young woman actually turned around and said, you know what? I'm not going to front as if she doesn't have an OnlyFans. I've seen people joking around. A husband was joking around with his wife. The wife was pretending that she was twerking on the camera. He said, "What are you doing?" She says, "I make $10,000 a month on OnlyFans," and then he begins to become her cameraman. Although it's in jest, it's showing you that if their money is enough, like the Indecent Exposure, that movie, if the money is enough, the man will be willing to exploit his wife and then hate her because she allowed him to exploit her for monetary gain. Right? That's so no, John, we don't have to yell. It's all good. I can hear you. Even if you come to the mic, I can hear you. You don't have to yell in the
Yes,
caps. Yeah, let's see. You're
yes, I
not.
want to.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry, I wanted to leave, but also some
Okay,
of
no
those
problem.
OnlyFans women also, are sex traffickers. Ellie Carter, who is the victim in that state, some of those OnlyFans women are sex. So we have to be mindful. If I'm watching OnlyFans, I am supporting those industries. It is also a sex trafficking industry, and we need to be
And
honest about that.
that's true. And we saw the case with Jeffrey Epstein and how they hold on to Ghislaine at Maxwell because they were of their day. She was accomplice to the sex trafficking. She was the one who presented herself as somebody who's trustworthy that these women could trust, and then she now initiates them into this underworld. It's interesting that I have to keep bringing it back to this real life situation because that young girl who's 25 said when Tommy reaches out to her to see if he can fly her to her for a quote unquote podcast, she didn't want to go alone, so she invited her friend. That's how some of this sex trafficking works. And when she realized that this is not a situation I want to be in, her friend stayed. And her friend was the one who was, prostituted in a certain way herself. And her friend was the one who now, I mean, this just happened the other day. So as Nasha is saying, it's not something that's far, far away or that we have to argue that it's not happening in society. It absolutely is happening. You know what I mean? It absolutely is happening, and it's worthy to have a conversation about.
Yes, thank you.
Black people, I'm not sure
I'm going to
what
leave.
JB is saying. I don't know what JB is over here saying. I'm not sure. If you want to come to the mic respectfully, you can. It's not about Black people wanting to survive airing out dirty laundry. Dirty laundry stinks, right? There's plenty of conversations that it's happening in today's space and time that needs to happen because it's not just about Black people existing in a bubble. Dirty laundry is dirty laundry. Talking about sex trafficking does not only have to do with the Black community. This has to do with the appetites of men and women across the world. This is not just happening in a bubble or in one space. So if you want to come to the mic, feel free to do so. But, you know, coming sideways or not contributing to the conversation in a way to move it forward is not going to be beneficial. You know what I mean? And you could just step to the side if that is your objective. If your objective is to be forward, hiding your iniquity is not going to get you to where you're trying to go. It's not. And people keep saying, what's going on in America? Whatever happens in quote unquote Black America affects America as a whole, not a whole. And that is historical. So there's nothing that happens that needs to necessarily be hid. It needs to be addressed. Yeah. Anybody have anything else to say? Let me know. What time is it? We at 1:18. This is historical. This is on record. If you read the history, which I have and continue to do, if you look at the history of the history is not on the up and up, fam. What you do? You secretly talk about it at the dinner table? The history is not above board. It's out here. So to pretend like it's airing dirty laundry, people are people. People have done wicked things. People have done good things. People have done underhanded things because people are people. The Bible is a whole book of illustrating quote unquote dirty laundry of what people have done. My point is, if we don't learn from these things, if we continue to think that it's something worthy to cover over because it makes us feel uncomfortable as humanity, because right now humanity is destroying themselves as a humanity, we cannot move forward. White people have, quote, dirty laundry that can be found in history books because it's history simply. Black people need to stop seeing it as something bad because it simply is their history. I will say to that, you have a validity to your point, but understand this: the man who had the pen was able to record. So if we're talking about a subset of society, a set of people who are not allowed to record their history, I think, okay, maybe I did misunderstand. If I went on you, you know what I mean, it's that kind of day to day. So my apologies if I went in on you. But we're talking about two different people who had the power to record their history and transmit their history, right? So within that, having seen it and having to face it is very different for both demographics of people, all because of how we needed to survive, right? You have more bad stories than you do good. This is why you see in Black history, oftentimes you want to just keep harping on the 1, 2, 3 people that did good, because there's so much bad. It's like, don't take away my good, to burden me with all of this bad. I already know that there's bad out there. So I know it's difficult for many melanated people to face certain things because of the status that we remain in up until this day. You know what I mean? But it's necessary if we're going to move forward. So if I misunderstood you and I turned a little bit up, like I said, that wasn't the intention, but it sounded a little sideways. And I'm like, what? Truth Diamond, welcome back.
Hey, Amuna. How are you today?
I'm a little turned up today, Truth Diamond, but I'm
Okay,
good.
well,
What's
I'm not
going on?
turned up today. I'll let you keep all the turning. You'll do all the turning up for us today. I'm calm. I'm staying calm today. So,
Yeah, stay calm. Stay
but
calm.
I'm staying calm because I can get there a little bit. But thank you for coming back to this, because as you always say, it's so layered. Everything is so layered with what is going on with us. But it's funny how that movie, The Color Purple, it sparks so much and so many different emotions in everybody. And I mean, that means that it's hitting a nerve on some level. You may have not experienced what I experienced, and I may have not experienced what you had experienced, but all of us is living out the Black experience through shared experiences. And that means that we need to get to a place of healing. And I think the brother yesterday, what was his name that you had on? The other brother.
Yeah, he's here right now, Sankara.
Oh, okay. He was making some really good, good points. I appreciated his perspective. But I wanted to touch on a couple of things. Have you ever, or the listeners, have you all ever watched it's a little documentary here on YouTube, and they even shared on Facebook, of the highest paid prostitute in America?
Nah, what?
Okay.
Please
Well, look that
share.
up. Look that up if you can. But long story short, this a white woman, and she's working on a ranch. Don't know what state, but obviously a state where prostitution is legalized. The lady makes a couple of $1 million a year with her minimum fee starting at 5 figures. So as I'm looking at this woman, of course, I think someone or you already mentioned Hugh Hefner and the Playboy Bunny Ranch, and you've already mentioned how it's changed by name. One time I actually looked up the original Playboy Bunnies. I said, I wonder what ended up happening to these women. Like as the caller Queen T, I think that was Queen T who was saying, we don't know how these people transitioned. So I looked up the original Playboy Bunnies, and it was about 10 of them, 10 or 15 of them, I believe. Look those ladies up. They have a list of what they became. I think all of them who were white, because it was one Black one, all of them became successful, like CEOs, book writers, real estate moguls, all of them. And my son actually pointed out, he said, Mom, did you notice what the Black woman became? She was a makeup artist. And so I said, wow, one of the issues, and remember, I was making the point yesterday of the ownership of Black women's private parts. And you were like, well, I don't know about that one now. But that system is not set up that if women go into that profession
Is it me, True Diamond, or you breaking up? Is it on my side or on your side? I hear you breaking up a little bit. Queen T say you breaking up. You breaking up, sis. See
Okay.
if you see if you can go out and come back in because you were sharing
Hello?
some. Yeah, come again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. What was the last thing you heard me say?
I
What
heard
was
you
the last
talking
thing you
about
heard me say?
what the melanated woman ultimately and what the melanated woman ended up
Okay, the
becoming. She became a
melanated,
makeup
okay,
artist.
a makeup artist. So my son is the one that pointed that out, and he's he's a kid, but I was just happening to look it up, just sharing with them. I was sharing them a biblical point of view of what not to do, but I found that funny. Why is it that the melanated woman, she only ended up being a makeup artist? Again, it's because for us as a people, these things have not been set up to transition. For example, to transition from the underworld. I think Jay John is making a lot of the points about foundational Black Americans and how other cultures have these things underground. But one thing that they did, and that goes back to like the movies of The Godfather and stuff like that, when they were doing their wrongs underground, they had a transitional period where most people were able to live this life that was a good life, hold on, what's the word? The life that represented what was good. Most of the people, if you go into their neighborhoods right now, what they have something called old money. They're sitting on old money. Us as a people, Black people as a whole, we don't have those things. And that's why we're sitting around in other chat rooms and on other people's pages, sitting here talking about things like education don't matter and high value and relationships. All this falls, it all works together that we don't have something built as a whole that's solid. All of those Playboy bunny girls were able to transition because also their men set it up where they went on and got married. They were not judged for the work, quote unquote, that they did. But how is that transitioning in Black America? Back to the situation with Tommy Sotomayor and that woman, how many people are putting that woman down? Again, I'm not approving of what she did or what they were doing, not even Tommy Sotomayor, but where is that transition? Tommy Sotomayor got to get right back on this on his site to go and make money off of clicks, likes, and views. The girl has to go back to whatever life she was, and now she has a stain on her because again, in our society, that transition is not there for her to transition back into being a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. And I'm talking about in general. Once Black women go into those things, how do they transition out? Now, I like Queen T, how she brought the point up of we don't know what became of them. But for anybody who knows people who were in that lifestyle, how many of them actually made it out? I actually knew a lady, and I've shared a lot of things about my life here in the comment section and here with you all. I mean, I used to see women prostituting and selling their body pregnant, on my block. I come from the hood. And so I actually know a lady who was a prostitute, crackhead, pregnant, selling her body. She did transition and she became a nurse. But that's one out of how many women that I saw growing up that ended up dead and stuff like that. So again, I'm not promoting that, but that is not something that we can ignore, that don't exist and that don't have negative repercussions even up till now. So that was my only point.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That was interesting. In my mind, you gave a whole new meaning to the term seed money because they took that. I'm over here thinking, my goodness, you know what I mean?
Y'all, please look that up. The highest paid prostitute in
Yeah, that's
America. The lady
yeah.
has makes a couple of million. And the fact, and this is another thing, in their ranch, you have to be tested for HIV, all kind of diseases. She meets with you online, and I found it funny that that it starts her salary. I mean, her wage or charge starts at 5 figures. And in this little clip 5 figures. So in this little clip that you showed, what were they talking about? $10 tricks?
Yeah, they was hollering for, and she was like, nah, it was 26. Yeah, they was turning.
What? And so again, it shows also the difference in the value of the women based on our race. That the Black woman, whether we want to admit it or not, that we are a lower class women. I know it's hard to accept that, but it's just the truth. I also have a lot of ties to African people. Not going to say how, but I know African people. I talk to them. I've been to the motherland, and the women is just at a lowly place. That price. Also, there's a documentary about maid services that like people can you can actually go and work for a nanny or a maid anywhere in the world if you want to, but there's a documentary where it talks about the highest paid maids, I think, are like Asian or nannies. Guess who's the lowest paid and the worst treated? Black women. They get those women from African countries and they pay them the lowest wage, and most of them end up raped and abused. And also they end up captured. They take their visas, they take them, they even murder them. Throw them out of 5-story buildings, beat them, and it's because they're Black. So to think this don't exist for us as Black women or Black people, that protection is not there. We can't continue to live in denial. It's not going to help us. Now, I do, as other people have pointed out, there is a lot of propaganda. I mean, some of it is just so obvious. It's kind of laughable. Like, come on now, but a lot of us, women and men, have fallen into those stereotypes because some of us may not think there's an alternative. So I'm just glad that at least you are coming at it layer by layer by layer,
right? So
that we can see the root. Like, who was this person that died? Was that the light-skinned guy who played the pimp role?
No, I'm gonna pull up his picture right now. So we can see, and maybe we'll come back and talk about it.
I didn't know who this guy was.
Melvin Van Peebles. His son name is Mario Van Peebles, and he's also is a director. I'm gonna pull him up right now for you guys, and then let me release the screen. And I wanted to also talk about somebody who went in and came out, which was Maya Angelou, and her openness talking about what she used to do before. You understand what I'm saying? So to say that it didn't exist, come again.
She was on the block.
Yeah, we could talk about that.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us just don't know. We don't know these. And Jay John, I just love going with him because he has some good points, but he need to get on this mic right here so we can hear him.
He tried yesterday, but they say that Maya Angelou chronicled her experiences as both a prostitute and a madame in her 1974 memoir, Gather Together in My Name. So
wow.
Yeah.
So it happens. And I want to say this too. That lifestyle, prostitution, and I think you said escort, these things have been around for forever and a day. It is a part of society. It is. But I think because we are a people who don't have anything solid for ourselves from all this time we've been here. How many of us can look at other communities, Asians and Spanish? I mean, I live by Indians, and I'm so tired of this high value and this don't matter about education argument when I see my Indian neighbors sitting up here graduating and buying homes and starting businesses. These things do matter, and these are things that we need to focus on, but it seems like we're going in the opposite direction of it. We're fighting against it. Is this something seated on the inside of us that maybe we want to live in degeneracy and poverty? I'm just wondering, why are we fighting for the opposite of what we need to do?
Question. We might have to come in and talk about that. In the same, thank you so much for sharing. You brought so much to light, so much to consider as we're having this conversation and moving forward. I just wanted for John, 2 to 3 witnesses establish a matter. So I'll give you one more witness because John said, money, you only gave me 2. You only gave me 2.
Come on, John. Call us up, man.
So, oh, my battery gonna die. This time I'm not purposely doing it, but my battery gonna die. So here's a quote from Maya. She says, I wrote about my experiences because I thought too many people tell young folks I never did anything wrong. I have no skeletons in my closet. In fact, I have no closet. They lie like that. And then young people find themselves in situations, and I didn't read this before I said everything I just said, but she's saying everything I just said. And then young people find themselves in situations and they think, dang, I must be a pretty bad guy. My mom or dad never did anything wrong. They can't forgive themselves and go on with their lives. So I wrote this book, Gather Together in My Name. So, you know, she was, well, let's jump down here.
She wasn't denying the truth.
Right. Maya, it says Madame Maya priced them out at $20 a trick and then split it up $7.50 for either of the girls and $7.50 for her. She was pimping. She was a madame. She was a woman pimp. And then $5 for the taxi driver who brought the John in. Most of their clientele were sailors on the move. According to her book, Angelou was eventually scared out of the industry, but years later in Stockton, California, she met a sweet-talking but dishonest man named Lou who lured her into sex work, this time as a sex worker herself. And there goes Maya Angelou in her bikini behavior.
Oh, wow. There
So
she goes.
this is facts. This is honorary Maya Angelou that everybody's like, oh, you know what I mean? But the reality is to say, oh, no, it wasn't there and it wasn't happening. No, this never happened. It's not true.
And
You know what I mean?
that shows that it was already firmly established as a way of life of even amongst us. We can't deny that. And I want to share real quick, but I had a family member in the industry, and everything that you're sharing, everything on there is true. But the one thing she told me was most of her clients was married. So I'm gonna leave it alone.
Look now.
That's what
on that note, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This conversation was in no way to advocate certain behavior. It was really just to shine a light on some of the things that may be keeping us in the downtrodden position that we are. We need to bethink ourselves and look at the things that we have contributed to, and realize that certain things, if we are in spiritual if we are in a spiritually negative state, then it's easier for others and other people and other entities to control us. So when we look at melanated people and we wonder, or just people in general, and we wonder why the poverty, why we can't succeed, we have to look at these things, because clearing these things up would open up the field for us to flourish, for us to be blessed, for us to increase and do that which is right. So with that said, my what do you call this here? Computer is about to go out. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If I have an opportunity,
Thank you for having me.
If I have an opportunity, I'll pop in. If not, y'all going to see me. I'll try to give a heads up before I come on so you can know. But other than that, thank everybody for tuning in. Everybody have a blessed day. True Diamond, thanks for coming through. Thanks for coming through. Everybody, thank you for coming through. John, it's always great to see you. Hopefully next time your mic will work. Sweet Tea, darling, thank you. So LF, Sankara, everybody, have a blessed day.